half of all marriages end in divorce. And nobody, not the therapist, not the culture, not the relationship podcast, nobody really is telling you the real reason why. So I'm going to. Because what you're doing right now, it's not working and you deserve to know why. Here's the question I want you to sit with, okay? If egalitarian relationships, those 50-50, equal partnership, equal leadership, mutual decision-making relationships, those. If that is the gold standard of modern love, then why are we more miserable than any generation before? Divorce rates, sexless marriages, couples who coexist but don't connect anymore. People are legally together and emotionally completely alone. But we did everything we were told, right? We split the chores. We both got equal education, both went to work, both communicated our feelings. Sure, maybe even went to couples therapy, maybe even read the books, showed up as equal partners, right? That all sounds good, and it still fell apart. Why? Something is missing. And what's missing is not something our modern culture is willing to say today, but I'm going to say it because it needs to be talked about. Guys, the science says it loud and clear, and science does not care about your feelings. Let's look at the numbers first, okay? In the United States, roughly 50% of marriages end in divorce. Second marriages, 67%. Third marriages, 73%. The more times people try, the worse it gets. Why? The mainstream answer is communication problems, financial stress, growing apart, compatibility issues. All of that is true still, but it's surface level because underneath every communication problem is a energetic problem. Underneath every couple that grew apart is a polarity problem. Underneath every dead bedroom and resentful marriage is a leadership problem. And nobody names it. So here's what the data actually shows. Sociologist Philip Cohen, analyzing marital trends across decades, found that the period of time where the most dramatic rise in divorce rates were the 1960s through the 1990s. And it coincided precisely with the cultural shift towards egalitarian relationship models. That's very interesting. Now, I'm not saying that the egalitarianism causes divorce. It's not what I'm saying. Egalitarianism, it works. It does. It can. It's its lane. It's its own lane. Education, equal. Rights, equal. Those are non-negotiable, but it's a tool. It's not a philosophy, and it's not a worldview, and it's not the architecture of romantic relationships. And like any tool, the moment you use it outside of its purpose, you cause damage. You can't take a hammer to glass and say it's carpentry, because it's not. And that's exactly what happens when you run erotic philosophy and domestic intimacy through the same egalitarian filter. You're not creating equality. You're creating a vacuum. And attraction suffocates in that vacuum, quietly, without noise, until one day you realize you've been equal and empty for years. And then you spend the next 30 years living with a roommate that you used to want. Here's what Esther Perel, we all should know her, right? Arguably the most credentialed, most respected couples therapist alive. This is what she says about it directly. Equality is a democratic principle. It has nothing to do with eroticism. There you go. From the queen herself. And she's not a traditionalist. She's not a conservative either. She is a progressive feminist therapist who has worked with thousands of couples therapists across 6 continents. And she says that because she has seen what happens to people when they confuse the political principle of equality with the neurological reality of desire. They are not the same system. They never were. And the moment you try to run your erotic life off the logic of your political values, you kill the very thing that you're trying to protect. But here's where it gets interesting. Because I'm not just telling you that egalitarianism kills attraction. That's not what I'm saying. I'm going to show you using 200,000 years of human evolutionary history, peer-reviewed neuroscience, and one of the most suppressed studies ever published in the Journal of Sex Research. Okay? Exactly why it kills attraction. We're going to get into it. And when you actually see the mechanism, when you understand what is actually happening inside of your brain and the body, you can unsee it. It's quite fascinating. So stay with me. Let's go back, way back. 200,000 years ago, long before marriage certificates, long before couples therapy long before anyone had an opinion about gender roles. There were humans. And those humans had a survival problem. A woman pregnant with a child was one of the most physically vulnerable states that a human being can be in at that time. She couldn't hunt, she couldn't fight, she couldn't run, she couldn't do anything. Her survival and the survival of her child depended entirely on whether the man she chose could protect her. Not metaphorically protect her, actually physically protect her. From predators, from rival tribes, from starvation, and from male aggressors who would exploit her vulnerability. So, the women who survived, the women whose DNA in every single woman alive today were the women who developed one critical psychological mechanism: the ability to detect male competence, male strength, male leadership, and male dominance, and to be attracted to it. It wasn't romantic at all. It was pure primal and survival. David Buss, professor of evolutionary psychology at the University of Texas at Austin, probably the leading researcher in human mating psychology. He studied this across 37 cultures. 37 different cultures, different languages, different religions, different continents, different centuries of history. And across every single one, the pattern was identical. Women universally preferred men with higher status, greater resources, physical strength, ambition, decisiveness, and the social capacity to command respect from other men. Every culture, no exceptions. And no, it wasn't because women were programmed by the patriarchy. It was because the women who were attracted to those traits had children that survived. And the women who were attracted to passive, indecisive, low-status men didn't. This is the ancient code. It's written into the female nervous system at a level that is completely beneath conscious thought. It doesn't update based on the new cycle. It doesn't care about your ideology or how you think. It doesn't respond to logic. It responds literally to the presence of masculine competence or its absence. Now here's where the modern culture world created a catastrophic mismatch. The last 60 years have told men, be softer, be more equal, ask how she feels, let her lead, step back, shrink, and disappear. And you guys listened. You became more sensitive, more compliant, way more agreeable, and something kind of unexpected happened. Women became less attracted to them. I wonder why. Guys, this ancient code doesn't care what year it is. It doesn't. It reads passivity as weakness. Always. It reads compliance as incompetence. And it reads a man who cannot make a decision as a man who cannot protect. And it reads it as a man who can't make a decision, which means he can't protect. And it turns off. Completely off. No amount of communication, couples therapy, or emotional intelligence workshops can override 200,000 years of neurological wiring. You cannot argue with the nervous system or negotiate with evolution. The human brain runs on two completely separate operating systems when it comes to relationships. System 1, the prefrontal cortex. This is the rational brain. Logic, planning, communication, fairness. It's the part of your brain that negotiates chores, maybe debates some finances, and decides where your kids go to school. The second system is the limbic system. This is the ancient brain. Emotion, survival, attraction, desire, sexual arousal. This system is 500 million years old. It predates language. It predates civilization. It predates every relationship book ever written, ever. So here's the critical insight. These two systems do not speak the same language. What the prefrontal cortex thinks is fair, 50-50, equal, symmetrical, the limbic system does not experience that as attractive. The limbic system responds to polarity, charge, the energetic difference between masculine and feminine. Think of a battery. A battery needs two poles, positive and negative, to generate the charge. When those poles meet, electricity moves. Now imagine both terminals are positive or both are negative. There's no charge, no electricity, and no energy. That is what happens neurologically when both partners occupy the same energetic space. The attraction circuit doesn't just weaken, it flat lines. It goes dead. The neuroscience actually shows it, guys, and I'm not exaggerating this. Testosterone drives competitive and protective behaviors in men. When a man occupies his masculine energy, decisive, directive, emotionally steady, it triggers a measurable neurochemical response in women. That means reduced anxiety, reduced threat. She's not detecting any threat, and there's no emotional defensiveness. In plain terms, she feels safe. And when she feels safe at a neurological level, not just intellectually, but biologically, oxytocin floods, it releases. That is the bonding chemical, the trust chemical, the I want to get closer to this person chemical. This is the sequence: masculine leadership, neurological safety, oxytocin, bonding, desire. Interrupt step 1, remove the masculine leadership, and the entire chain collapses. No safety, no oxytocin, and no desire. This is measurable brain chemistry, guys. This is not opinion, not philosophy. This is brain wiring and chemistry. It's your nervous system. And this is what happens on the other end. When the polarity collapses completely and the woman is forced to take the leadership role, her cortisol levels go up. Her stress response activates. She's now carrying both the masculine and the feminine energy of the relationship. And guess what? She is exhausted. Not even really physically exhausted, though. Emotionally and neurologically exhausted, because she's not supposed to be doing that. And exhaustion and desire, guess what? Can't coexist in the same body. It just can't. You cannot want somebody sexually that you have to manage. It's biologically impossible. And you can't fake it. Now, I need you to brace yourself for what I'm about to say, because there is a study published in the peer review journal of sex research that the mainstream conversation has been quietly burying for 15 years. And when you hear what it found, you're going to understand exactly why women cannot find the words for what they actually want. Don't go anywhere. Holly and Hensley, 2009, Journal of Sex Research. They studied female sexual fantasies across a large, demographically diverse sample of women. The finding? Between 62 and 65% of women reported fantasies involving forceful submission. Not a small niche group, not a small broken population either. 62 to 65%, the majority. Now, here's the finding that blows the narrative apart completely. The rate of that fantasy was not the highest among women with low self-esteem. Not the highest among women who had been conditioned to be passive. Not the highest among women with limited education or professional achievement. It was highest among the most dominant, most successful, highest achieving women. The CEO, the executive, the woman who runs her entire world with absolute precision. She is the one most likely willing to surrender. And Bhavana and Critelli, in a separate 2009 study, replicated and extended these findings. Again, published in the Journal of Sex Research. Go look it up. Again, showing that submission fantasies are statistically normal, not unusual, not pathological, normal. The culture does not know what to do with this data because it contradicts everything the last 40, 50, 60 years of gender theory has told us about what women want. So they ignore it. Or they pathologize it and call it internalized misogyny. They say women have been conditioned to want this by patriarchal culture. But here's the problem with that argument. Cross-culture evolutionary research shows that these patterns, they exist across cultures with radically different levels of gender equality. You can't socialize away 200,000 years of neurological architecture. And there's a completely rational explanation for why the highest achieving women want this the most. She carries the weight of control everywhere she goes. Every day, every meeting, every responsibility. She's in charge, competent, controlled, indomitable. And there is exactly one place in her life where she is allowed to not be in charge. The bedroom. Or she would be if the man in the room was capable of holding that space. But if he's passive, if he's waiting for her direction, if he's asking her what she wants instead of knowing, and leading and taking, she doesn't get to put the weight down. She carries it there too, buddy. And she resents you for it. Sometimes consciously, sometimes not. But in the deep, ancient brain, the one that keeps the score without your permission, she registers it though. He cannot hold me, and desire shuts down completely. Now here's where this makes it a little bit deeper, because some of you might be thinking, okay, fine, maybe the dynamic in the bedroom matters, but what about everything else? And this is where it gets brutal. Even if he steps up in the bedroom, even if he starts leading there, if she is in her masculine energy for the other 23 hours of the day, the damage is already done. Think about it. She's running the household, managing all of your calendars, making the financial decisions, directing his life alongside her own. She's been in her masculine all day, every day. And then he expects her to drop into her feminine in the bedroom just like that. It doesn't work like that at all. And if you think that, you have it twisted, my friend. Polarity is not a light switch. You can't just turn it on and off. You can't spend all day being the man in the relationship and then suddenly become a woman at night. The nervous system does not switch that fast. The resentment that she built all day, it doesn't disappear at 10 p.m. It doesn't. And if you think that, you are so far off. This is why the dynamic has to be consistent, not controlling, not rigid, but present and consistent. His masculine energy has to permeate the relationship, not just in the bedroom, but for her feminine to feel safe enough to emerge fully anywhere at any given time. Carl Jung, we all know him, right? Identified something in the human psyche that nobody in modern relationship culture talks about today. He called it the anima and the animus. The animus in a woman, it's her internal image of the ideal masculine. It's not a specific man, it's an archetype. Power, direction, competence, emotional steadiness, the capacity to contain. When a woman meets a man, she is not just seeing who he is. She is overlaying him with that internal image. She is projecting her animus onto him. In the early stages of attraction, guys, that overlay is luminous. She sees him through the lens of everything that she needs him to be. That's the part of what early love is, part of what makes it feel like electricity. But then life happens. And slowly, who he actually is becomes visible beneath the projection. If what's underneath is strength, steadiness, decisiveness, emotional containment, the projection holds. It deepens. The trust starts to form and the desire, it compounds. If what's underneath is passivity, indecision, emotional instability, approval seeking, neediness, the projection cracks. And what replaces attraction is not neurality. What replaces attraction is contempt. The quiet kind, not the explosive kind. The kind that turns her into his manager or his mummy. She starts directing him what to do, what to wear, how to speak, what to feel, how to parent, how to live. She doesn't want to, but somebody has to lead the relationship if he's not stepping up. Every time she has to pick it up, every time she has to be the man in a dynamic that's supposed to have one, something in her closes. She doesn't want to control him. She doesn't. She wants to follow him, but he gave her nothing to follow. Are you following me? This is what people mean when they say she changed after we got together. She didn't change. The projection dissolved, okay? And what's underneath? It wasn't what she needed or wanted. Here's the specific mistake that modern culture has made. It took a true and important principle that men and women deserve equal rights, equal pay, equal legal protection, equal dignity, and it turned into an entirely different domain. It said if men and women are equal in rights, they must be equal in psychology. Again, that's not what the science says. Men and women are equal in value and different in psychology, so fundamentally different. This is not a controversial statement. This is what evolutionary biology, neuroscience, hormonal research, and cultural psychology all agree on independently. Testosterone and estrogen don't just affect the body, they shape your brain. They influence what triggers arousal, what creates safety, what generates desire, what builds trust. All of that. Those systems are different in men and women. Not better or worse, different. And the modern relationship model made the catastrophic error of applying a one-size-fits-all symmetry to a system designed for complementary asymmetry. It's like taking a lock and a key, two different objects that fit perfectly together, and then deciding that fairness means that they should both be locks. Locks don't open locks. You lose the mechanism completely. The ancient code understands this. Every civilization in human history before the modern experiment organized romantic relationships around some version of masculine leadership and feminine receptivity. Not because those civilizations were all wrong, but because that architecture, it resonated with the biological hardware underneath it all. If you want to understand why your relationship lost its electricity, if you want to understand why egalitarianism maybe gave you logistics but killed the desire, you have to understand the difference between two things, the partnership system and the polarity system. And you have to stop running both off of the same logic. Every relationship runs two operating systems simultaneously. System one, the partnership system. This is where equality belongs. Legal rights, access to education, independence, equal dignity. And as human beings, right, this system works best with equal voice, mutual respect, and shared humanity. That is a non-negotiable. Okay, but what's the other one? System two, the polarity system. This is literally where attraction lives. Desire, eroticism, the primal charge between two people. This system does not respond to fairness. It responds to difference, to tension. I talk about it all the time, to the energetic charge between masculine and feminine poles. Here's the critical truth. You cannot run the polarity system using the partner system logic. When you bring the 50-50 framework into the erotic realm, when you make desire a negotiation, attraction a committee decision, leadership a shared responsibility, you neutralize the charge. Dead battery, no spark. The solution is not to abandon equality where it belongs, because it does belong there. The solution is to know which system you're operating in first, together. Rights, education, legal standing, human dignity, all of it. Equal, always, full stop. But in the realm of emotional energy and sexual leadership and rational polarity, he leads, she follows. He's not forcing it, guys, okay? So don't even think that when I'm talking about this. Culture didn't even mandate it, okay? And it's not even because she has no choice, because he earned it. He literally earned it. And that is beautiful. And what does earning it actually require? Because don't expect her to follow a man who is lazy, who has no direction, who has no vision for his own life, who sits, who drifts away, who is leisurely, who waits to be told what to do. She will not follow that man. Why though? Let's go back. Because her ancient brain, the one that spent 200,000 years of scanning for a man competent enough to be trusted with her safety, it registers that absence of those qualities as a threat. You're not a leader. You want her to follow you? Build something worth following, my friend. Have a direction, have a purpose, have a standard for your life. Stay steady under pressure. Show her, not with words, because words don't matter, but with how you move through the world, that you're a man whose judgment can be trusted. That is when the following stops feeling like losing something, and it starts feeling like relief. Mr. John Gottman, who has conducted the longest running scientific study of marriage in history, he found that men in the most successful, most passionate, long-term marriages share one consistent characteristic. They accept influence from their wives, not surrender, not total compliance, not just handing over the wheel. Here you go, honey, you take everything and just do it. No, acceptance of influence. They listen, they incorporate, they treat her input as intelligence because it is, but they do not collapse. They remain the steady point. they remain the unshakable character. When she's emotional, they don't panic. They don't get defensive. They don't try to logic her way out of it. They hold. That holding, that unshakable, non-reactive, emotionally present holding is the most attractive thing a man can do. It's not a performance. It tells her nervous system something that the world never could. I am capable of protecting you from chaos, from uncertainty, from the feeling of free falling with no one to catch you. That is what she's been looking for, guys. Not a man who agrees with everything she says. A man who holds when everything falls. If many women are still watching, I know exactly what some of you are thinking, okay? This sounds like you're justifying abuse, teaching men to dominate and women to submit, and creating a principle to control and promoting violence. I'm going to take all of that seriously, okay? Because it is the right concern to raise. I'm with you. So here's the distinction that makes or breaks everything that I've said today. Control comes from insecurity. Leadership comes from strength. A controlling man needs her compliance to feel powerful. A leading man is powerful whether she complies or not. Control says, do what I say or I will punish you. Leadership says, I know where we're going. Trust me, I'll get us there. Control restricts her freedom. Leadership creates space so safe for her that, guess what? She chooses freely, completely, with full agency to enter into it. David Buss again. He identified what he calls the welfare trade-off ratio. It describes how much one partner prioritizes the other's welfare relative to their own. His research is unambiguous. A man can display every single signal of dominance and leadership, but if his welfare trade-off ratio is low, if his power is used for himself rather than for her and the relationship, female attraction collapses and it's replaced by a threat detection. Again, go back to her ancient brain. She knows the difference between a predator and a protector. She may not be able to name it, but she feels it in her bones. Real masculine leadership is, at its core, a commitment to use your strength in service of someone else. It is the willingness to carry the weight so she doesn't have to. That's not oppression. That is pure devotion. So now, I'm going to speak directly to the men watching this, okay? The ones who have been doing everything right by culture's definition, compromising, shrinking, asking for permission, softening every edge that you have, disappearing piece by piece, and watching her pull further and further away and not understanding why. You didn't lose her because you were wrong. You lost her because you were handed an incomplete map. You were given the political blueprint and told that it was the biological one, and nobody told you two different systems were running simultaneously and that you were solving the wrong problem with the right tools. There is a man inside of you who knows how to lead. He has been there the whole time. He's just been told that that man is dangerous, toxic, misogynistic, unwanted. He is not. He is exactly what she needs and what she's been looking for. Now, ladies, let me speak to you. The ones who are exhausted from carrying it, managing him, mothering him, directing everything, running the household, the calendar, the kids, the emotional temperature, everything. I have to talk to you for a second too. The ones who look at their partner, right, and feel maybe some frustration and grief. It's not because you don't love him, I know, but it's because you can't find a single space in your lives where you're allowed to stop being in charge. I know you don't want to control the relationship. You want someone to take it for you. I understand. And it's not even forcibly or violently. It's competently. Take it. Please, let me relax. That's what you're trying to say. I understand. You want a man whose emotional container is bigger than your chaos, right? Because we are a little chaotic. Admit it. You want a man who can lead without watching him crumble, a man who doesn't need your direction to know where he's going. That desire is not weakness. It's beautiful, and it is not internalized misogyny like I keep hearing some of you say to me. It's 200,000 years of evolutionary wisdom encoded in your nervous system, telling you exactly what kind of men can be trusted with your safety. And when you find him, when a man shows up with that kind of grounded, unshakable, invested strength, every woman watching knows exactly what I mean when I say you exhale. For the first time in a long time you remember, you exhale. That is what's possible. Not the perfect egalitarian relationship the culture promised.